Employers could be sued for overheard opinions, warns Lord Toby Young, branding the government's proposed banter ban a death knell for the British pub. In this explosive GBNews exchange, he reveals how new rules could force venues to hire banter bouncers or face tens of thousands in tribunal costs, just as 37 pubs shut each week and 69,000 hospitality jobs vanish. The debate confronts the clash between free speech and red tape in a heated, unexpected showdown. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated.
I don't think the government, without being forced to, are going to back down on the banter ban. They seem determined to get it through. I've got some amendments that I'm proposing in the Lords next week during the report stage. Hopefully they'll attract enough support to be attached to the bill. It'll go back to the Commons and they'll have an opportunity to think about it again. But what they'll probably do is just strip away the amendments and send it back to the Lords unchanged. So the banter ban, I think, is a real worry. It's a real assault on free speech. What it means is they're amending the Equality Act in the Employment Rights Bill to make employers liable for the harassment of their employees, not the sexual harassment of their employees, they're already liable for that, the non-sexual harassment of their employees by third parties, i.e. customers, members of the public.
When we're talking about harassment, we're not even talking sexual, we're talking about ideas, words.
We're talking about unwelcome opinions, expostulations, banter that employees find offensive or upsetting by virtue of their protected characteristics, the colour of their skin, their sexual orientation, their religion. It's extraordinary to think that employers in beleaguered sectors like the hospitality sector are going to have to deal with this whole new layer of red tape. If they don't take all reasonable steps, this is what it says in the banter ban clause, if they don't take all reasonable steps to protect their employees from overhearing conversations between members of the public, customers in pubs, in restaurants, in football stadiums, if they don't take all reasonable steps to protect their employees from hearing these unwelcome things, their employees can take them to the Employment Tribunal and sue them for tens of thousands of pounds.
And what about in offices then as well? Well, that encourage people like, because that was what the Daily Mail was pushing, this idea that there's going to be these diversity officers hired in offices because otherwise people might talk to each other.
I mean, there are already EDI officers employed in offices, particularly in the public sector, and their job is to protect employees from being harassed by other employees, which is already what the Equality Act says employers have to do. And I think what the Mail on Sunday means is that where a workplace is a pub or a restaurant or a sports stadium, employers will have to employ what we're calling banter bouncers, people whose job it is to make sure customers in those venues don't say anything, don't express any opinions, don't assume the gender of the people serving them in a way that they might find upsetting and could lead to a case being brought against their employer in the Employment Tribunal. Don't forget, Josh, that the Employment Tribunal is completely overwhelmed at the moment. So one of the things this new clause will do will introduce a whole new swathe of cases which will block up the Employment Tribunal even more. I mean, we've got a case, this guy Sabah Porsaidi, fired from a housing association because he stood as a reform candidate. That's not going to be heard until 2027 because the backlog now is at least 2 years. And it's just going to be completely overwhelmed. And there was a stat today in the Sunday Times that since the budget was introduced, only a few months ago, 69,000 or so people have lost their jobs in the hospitality sector. This is going to make it even worse. According to the Campaign for Real Ale, pubs are closing at a rate of 37 a week. This is going to decimate the pub trade. I mean, this is the death knell for the good old British pub. This government doesn't know what it's doing. There isn't a single person in the government who's ever run a business. They don't care about the impact that measures like the banter ban will have on struggling businesses. They don't care about the additional legal burden they'll be placing on them, the additional risks of having a business in which your employees could sue you for not protecting them from overheard conversations between customers. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to destroy the hospitality.
Load of money. This is going to surely make it.
It's going to make it 10 times worse because when I've brought this up in the House of Lords, the government minister defending the banter ban has said, "Oh no, Harassment doesn't include banter, overheard banter. You're making that up. This is confected outrage. But actually, we know from a succession of cases in the Employment Tribunal that if an employee overhears a conversation between two other employees, just overhears, not directed at them, that they find offensive or upsetting by virtue of their protected characteristics, they can sue their employer in the Employment Tribunal. So the Employment Tribunal has defined harassment as including overheard banter, and that won't change when it comes to overheard conversations.